And sometimes she chained herself to it, but most of the time she just fucking went on a rampage and smashed it. She smashed as much equipment as she could. The cops would come and arrest her, and she immediately went limp. And so they had to carry her everywhere. She refused any kind of defense in her trial. They had to drag her everywhere. She got 5 years in prison, all right? And she just decided to do total non-cooperation when she's in custody. She had to be carried everywhere in prison. If they wanted her out of her cell, they had to carry her. If they wanted to provide her medical care, she had a glass eye and she needed a new one. They gave her a glass eye. She took the glass eye and she fucking threw it at them, right? Smashed it. She refused to eat except whatever she could do to sustain herself, meaning she was eating 1 meal or less a day. She shit everywhere. She slept on the bare floor because she didn't want to accept blankets and from the prisoners. She refused to take showers, which after a while, you can imagine, the guards are not pleased with that. She refused to accept any of her mail, and the mail was piling up as she became a hero in the movement. That became a problem. She was so obnoxious to the Pennsylvania prison system that Mother Teresa came in and worked a deal. Mother Teresa, right, came in and worked a deal to get her out. She refused the deal. She says, I don't want out. And she was so annoying, they're like, we don't care, you're getting out of prison. She's the only person who the state broke out of fucking prison because she was so annoying. And they said, you can be out of prison, you just can't go back to this particular clinic in Pittsburgh that you fucked with. And the very next day she got out, she went back to that clinic in Pittsburgh and fucked with them. And they refused to throw her back in jail. Now this tells you a little bit about how the state tends to side with the right when they have to. But it also tells you that her techniques were so much that they annoyed the state so much that they couldn't handle it.
What year was this?
This was 93. Is there something we couldn't learn from someone like St. Joan? I think there is something we can learn from St. Joan. And then Operation Rescue, I've talked a little bit about. Scott Roeder, many of you know, the guy who killed George Tiller. I think actually killing abortion doctors is a largely ineffective technique because it doesn't build a constituency. I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Well, did they beat her up in prison?
From what I've read, no. But I would guess that she probably. It seems to me inconceivable that someone who's totally non-resistant to a prison guard isn't getting beat up. So I would assume yes, although I haven't read anything on that. Now, this is a person who refuses to compromise on her principles and who is doing it, and by doing it, she was building a movement. Because basically the Free Joan movement of the anti-abortion movement became huge. And so her actions helped to build the anti-abortion movement. Whereas I think people like Scott Roeder, he's not building anything. He thinks he is, but he's not. Then let me talk about the radical environmental movement, the ALF and the ELF. The ALF and the ELF have done hundreds of millions of dollars of damage to facilities and that kill or torture animals and that hurt the environment. And I think that they fit all five of the 6 features I'm talking about. Except I think what the problem is that they don't fit the building a constituency. And this is the main problem I have with left-wing extremism today. If you look what John Brown did, what Stephen Foster did, the guy I talked about who disrupted church services. If you look at the early anti-abortion movement, what Joan Andrews did, what Randall Terry did of Operation Rescue when they blocked clinics, everything they did in their refusal to compromise was to mobilize a base, was to build what Randall Terry called the remnant of his people. To build a small cadre of people who were so militant and so willing to do anything, regardless of the consequences, that they could actually have a way disproportionate impact on public opinion and on politics. What the ALF and the ELF does is they do not build a constituency. The ELF inspires many people, inspires me, but they don't build a base. Their entire organization is based on a cell structure. If you're like, I love what the ELF does, I want to join. Does anyone know where you join the ELF? Anyone got a membership form I could fill out? Anyone got like a representative I can talk to? You can't. You can't. Because ELF is organized in autonomous cells, right? Cells meaning small groups of people from 2 to 10 people usually. And you can't join a cell. You can be invited in perhaps, but you really got to start your own. Now, when I was 18 years old, I was pissed off. I wanted to fuck shit up. And so I, like an idiot, I wrote to Earth First Journal saying, "Dear Earth First, I'm a radical environmentalist. I want to fuck shit up. There's some golf courses I'd really like to take out around here in Phoenix. What do you think?" And the Tucson people wrote me back, "Dear so-and-so, thank you for your interest. Please never contact us again." And on one hand, they're very smart to do that. But on the other hand, you don't build a movement that way. When your movement is when your actions are based entirely on clandestine activities designed to fuck shit up, but not to build a base through that fucking shit up, you don't build a movement. What Scott Roeder did when he walked into the foyer of George Tiller's church in Wichita, Kansas on May 31st and put a gun to Tiller's head and killed him, he effectively shut down one of the 3 abortion clinics in the whole country that performed late-term abortions. He effectively scared the crap out of abortion providers in this country. He really scared the pro-choice movement, and he made it much more difficult for women to have access to abortions, and he probably inspired copycat killers. I don't think we've seen the last of abortion assassination attempts in the next 2 or 3 years. I think we'll see more. I don't want to deny any of that. But what Scott Roeder did not do, that he thought he did, is he did not build a movement. This guy, Scott Roeder, everything I've read, he's been kind of quiet, and he doesn't seem like an intellectual type. But everything I've read by him that justifies his actions is based on a guy named Paul Hill. And what this guy Paul Hill did in 1993 is he walked to an abortion clinic in Pensacola, Florida, and shot an abortion provider named John Britton, and killed the Britton's bodyguard and seriously injured the bodyguard's wife. And then he blew him away, set his shotgun down, and sat in the grass and waited for the cops to arrest him.
And that was in the 1990s.
This is 93. Okay? And so, 94, sorry. This is 94. And so he did that, and he waited, and he got arrested, and he was happy to get arrested because he basically said, "I'm going to be the next John Brown." In other words, I'm going to be the next person who does an act that is so shocking that it shocks the nation into realizing the evils of abortion, just like John Brown's attack on Harper's Ferry, Virginia in 1859 shocked the nation of the evils of slavery and the intransigence, the stubbornness of the South, that it would lead to a whole series of events that would click into, just like Brown led to civil war and the abolition of slavery, his actions would lead to a whole series of events that would lead to the end of abortion. Hill was totally wrong. He didn't do that. And Roeder is totally wrong if he thinks he's doing the same thing. The difference is that John Brown was building a constituency. Roeder, Paul Hill, and I hate to say it, the ELF and the ALF are not building a constituency. So just to conclude, and then I want to hear your thoughts and criticism. If I have to summarize, I want to say that we meaning all of those in this room who believe in a free society, meaning a society, a directly democratic society, an a society based on the freedom of all people to have a full say in those affairs that affect their life, including and especially the economy. We believe in that kind of society. We need zealots to achieve this society. We need fanatics. We need extremists. So we should not condemn extremism straight off the bat. We should look into see what kind of extremism and what they're doing. Because we need zealots to achieve this free society that you and I think we all want to live in. I think that's one point. The second point is based on my first book. I think the focus of these zealots should be focused on attacking on the institutions that reproduce the society, especially institutions that reproduce white supremacy. And I think third, that when you engage in the zealotry, you're not doing it as a one-off action. You are doing it in order to build a constituency. And if you're engaging in zealotry that's designed to build a constituency, you have a role to play in creating a new society. And the current movement I see, just to talk about extremism on the ideological extremes, I don't think most of the movements today understands that. On the one hand, you've got the nonprofits and the liberals who all want to do good work, and they all want to change. They all want to make it better for children to have breakfast in the morning and animals to be taken care of in their shelters. Great stuff. I'm all for kids having breakfast. I'm all for animals being treated nicely.